Final Fantasy XIV's latest expansion, Endwalker, is almost here. Releasing on November 23rd, or the 19th if you're a fan of Early Access, it's set to finish up a massive storyline spanning over 10 years and is the game's 4th expansion after the reworked A Realm Reborn. I got invited to a preview event being held to get some hands-on time with the new Reaper and Sage jobs, and of course, it's important to note that everything here that I'm talking about is based off an in-development build, Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, and any content is subject to change before we actually get our hands on the final version of the expansion. The event itself was set up to let us run around and test jobs both new and old while doing fates and hunts in 2 new zones, Garlemald and Thavnir. Old Charlian was also available for us to explore and meet up with people to run the Tower of Zot, the one dungeon that was available in the preview build. While I didn't find any hunts, I did run the dungeon multiple times with a few people on a few different jobs, also while trying out the new and improved trust system. Also spent a good amount of time with target dummies on a very scenic beach in Thavnir, just trying out jobs that I wanted to see the changes that they made to. I feel like it's important to let you know that I'm a tank main at heart. I spent most of my time playing Reaper, and I do have impressions for Sage as well, but healing really isn't my strongest suit. I didn't even get to take the Sage into a dungeon run, for example. Also, I'm not going to be getting super technical in my breakdown at all. All of these numbers and the math on the skills as we were presented them could change anyways, so I'm going to just focus mainly on how the jobs felt to play. I feel like that this is more important than just the numbers. After getting my hands on both of the new jobs, my biggest takeaway was how much they both feel fresh and different, in terms of both style and how they play. Sage even more so given that it has to fall into this new healer split of pure healers and shield healers. Reaper even does a lot to stand out against most of the other physical melee jobs with its multiple meters and keeping track of weaving scythe attacks and avatar attacks. Both jobs are very flashy, and I feel they are a great showcase of how far the game has come both in terms of design, visually, and mechanically. They both offer something that feels familiar to fans of their specific roles, but have enough job-specific identity to make the overall experience of using them stand out as a fun and enjoyable one. Overall, I feel they're excellent additions to the existing jobs in the game, and I cannot wait to play them more once the expansion is finally in my hands. I know I already talked a bit about how much I'm not the biggest fan of healing, but my first reaction after messing around with the skills for Sage was that I may have to change that. Everything from the Gundam-inspired weapon design to the wild and flashy animations, even the sound effects going off constantly sound like they could be ripped right out of the future. They all come together to make this really rad feeling healer that plays differently from all the other ones I have experience with. Being able to mark a party member with the Cardia skill so that they are passively receiving heals while I'm getting carried away shooting laser beams everywhere is exactly what I'm looking for. Of course, I want to make sure my friends stay alive, but I also want to look good while I'm doing it. And that's exactly what it feels like the Sage is giving me. They also have this really cool gap closing ability called Icarus that can be used to propel yourself towards enemies and allies alike. I'll probably end up using this too much just because of how sick it looks. Overall though, I think my favorite Sage ability is, and please forgive my pronunciation of this, Eucrasia. It augments 3 of your abilities to be more powerful versions of themselves. In other words, it makes my existing lasers into even bigger lasers. And honestly, who doesn't want that? My time with Sage left me wanting more and maybe even considering spending more time in the healing role itself, even with the anxiety that the responsibility gives me. Final Fantasy XIV did help me get over my tank anxiety after all, and it would make sense that it would also probably do the same for healing. And if that isn't a great endorsement of a new job, I really don't know what is. Reaper's a job I spent most of my time with during the preview event, and the first time that I got Enshrouded to proc, and I became enshrouded, or as I like to endearingly call it, shifting into bad boy mode, since it visually changes your normally cheery warrior of light into an angry, red-eyed, Shadow the Hedgehog-y, void-sent version of yourself. I knew I had a new favorite melee DPS job. Everything you can do on Reaper just feels so dang badass. The sick factor isn't even limited to living out your dream of being a scythe-wielding, Hot Topic-fueled nightmare creature. The feeling of weaving your way through the Reaper's various abilities to get into that bad boy mode just feels great. Around all of the core attacks, you have this really fun toolkit that also allows you to do all sorts of fun stuff like dash and teleport as well. The thing that I really liked the most was just how awesome the Reaper looks in motion. All of your attacks have these really cool red or blue tearing effects that follow your scythe movements, and they'll change depending on whatever ability you're using. This effect is only amplified when you actually shift into bad boy mode and go absolutely crazy slashing everywhere, where your Warrior of Light is completely surrounded by twice as many of these bright red and black colored tears while you're whipping your scythe around wildly, and I just love every second of it. Reaper is kind of a natural step for me too, since my current favorite melee DPS class is Dragoon, and while they still kind of function a little differently, I think there's enough to kind of bridge that gap. They also even end up sharing the same armor too, so I already have a really nice back catalog of cool glamours to use already, and that's the most important thing. My love and loyalty to tanking ultimately means that I don't think I'll be switching over to being a Reaper main, but you bet this is one of the first alt jobs I'm going to level up. It could very easily be my second favorite job I've played, even with the few hours I've had to learn it. There's still so much more of Endwalker for me to see. Even with what little I had, I still wanted to try out so many other jobs and do so many other things. I wanted to explore more of the grey desolate ruins of Garlemald. I wanted to just sit and vibe on the beach in Thavnir for a while longer and take in that amazing soundtrack some more. Because man, that new Endwalker motif is so good. I can already feel it pulling on my emotions even without the memories or scenes attached to them. But sadly there's not enough time. Nevertheless, I still played enough to get me exceedingly stoked for the adventure that we're all going to be going on together once Endwalker finally drops. Buckle up, fellow Warriors of Light. We've got a god to kill and a story to wrap up, and I hope to see you there. For those we've lost and for those we've yet to save... Oh, if you do see an extremely handsome Rogadin named Phil Pliskin in the Party Finder, say hi. I promise I'll do my best to tank the dungeon for you. Also, if you've made it this far and you enjoyed what you've watched, please leave a like and a comment. If you do, they might let me make more Final Fantasy stuff. Between you and me, that's exactly what I want to do.